Alrighty, folks, at long last, let's get back to Ask Ian. JC Freak asks, do you plan on expanding the Sonic multiverse anytime soon? I'm not talking about Mobius, as in the anti-Mobius, but more like Marvel's multiverse or DC's 52 universes. No, I don't really want to go too crazy with the multiverse like the Zone Wars stories did. As far as I'm concerned right now, we have the Anti-Mobius, we have Blaze's World, maybe one other variant here or there just for surprise sake, but I don't want to get too crazy with the multiverse. I'd rather focus on the main universe and the more interesting side universes. I don't think we need to be spending a lot of time with Bat Sonic over here or Spider Sonic over there. I'd rather spend my time on stories that, really are more fun and more interesting rather than just, hey, look, we're making fun of another comic book. Fishfro asks, are robots coming back as part of Eggman's army anytime in the foreseeable future? The DEL seems pretty prevalent these days. Part of the reason for that is because Interjack wiped out the Badnik Horde. Eggman had nothing, which is why he went with the DEL, and also because of the robotization issue is why he's been doing the DEL chapters around the world. I would say that we can see some robots coming back, not this year, but not too far down the line. We're still actually discussing on how we want to tackle the robot issue. Zulan Eradis asks, since the freedom fighters are essentially soldiers fighting against the Eggman Empire, are they compensated as such by the Republic of Acorn? That is a very, very good question. The broader idea of how economics work within the Republic of Acorn and Mobius in general hasn't been explored at all, and not being very good with economic theory myself, it's not something I immediately plan on broaching and doing something very stupid with. It seems that a lot of fair trade seems to go on. There seems to be more of a community idea within at least what we've seen in Mobian culture, but they've also talked about Mobiums and rings used as currency, so ultimately I'm going to have to say I don't know. I would think that they get some kind of preferential treatment. They could probably walk into the market and say, hey, I stopped Robotnik, can I have an apple? And they, would get it. Matthew Woodley asks, in the glimpse of Silver's future we're getting in Sonic the Hedgehog number 215 and 216, will Silver's master finally be revealed? Yes, he will. Cryptic asks, how do artists get chosen for the stories in each issue? Is it based on availability, or does it reflect the need for a certain tone, feel, or atmosphere that is trying to be established? It's a little of column A, it's a little of column B. It depends on what the artist has got going on in their real lives. It depends on how fast they work. And sometimes it's a matter of tone. It also matters how new they are to the book. Someone who's a veteran of the book will probably get first choice on something that might be a little more continuity heavy because they know how these characters look for the most part, while new folks may be tossed into the deep end and told, hey, let's see what you got, and they go from there. Sonic Blue Ranger asks, have you ever wanted to do a story set during the first Robotnik War? And to clarify for anyone who's got a question about that, that means during classic Robotnik's reign up through Endgame when he got ultimately annihilated. Not especially. There's a few stories maybe investigating some background and such, but there's no real pressing need on my end to tell a story during that period. DLM X13 asks, are we going to see Archimedes again? I miss the little dude terribly. Plus I think his fire-breathing and teleportation powers could come in really handy. Archimedes drives me up the wall because I thought he was one of the most interesting characters in the entire Knuckles extra mythos. And the dichotomy between him and Knuckles, with him being the tiny little mentor and Knuckles being, well, Knuckles, was really a lot of fun, and that's what I wanted to work towards, especially with the end of Interjack Reborn, because we see Archimedes showing up and being the voice of reason, and directing Locke, and teleporting Infinitivus away, and really being active. Unfortunately, I haven't had the time that I thought I would to investigate Knuckles and take him back to that kind of classic setting. So, right now, I'm not sure what to do, or where I'm going to go with it, I should say, because there's a question of when we'll be able to get back to Knuckles, and really, Knuckles has evolved as a character to the point where, does he really need a mentor anymore? And if you take the mentor role away from Archimedes, what is he really? So it's something I'm going to have to investigate, and I will hopefully be able to get around to it at some point. Big Al's son asks, in the future, will we see more of Fiona and the Destructics soon, now that they made a comeback after nearly 2 years? Yeah, we'll be seeing the Destructics, and you might as well include Fiona in that, because I plan on her staying on the team. We'll be seeing them show up here and there as much as I can. Rubix asks, in Sonic the Hedgehog number 195, which was Hedgehog Havoc Part 1, the roll call, we get Sally, Nicole, a question mark character, which was Silver, Alicia, Buns, and another question mark character, which ended up being Super Scourge. Silver and Scourge featured heavily in the story, but the other four mentioned on the roll call are pretty small parts, especially considering this was an 8-Hedgehog Battle Royal. So my question is, what criteria does it take for a character to be featured in the roll call at the start? What I usually try to do with the roll calls is feature the characters that A, have a big role to play in the story, and B, wouldn't be readily recognizable by somebody new to the book. Like, in the instance of 195, Sally and Alicia kind of conspire to bring everybody over through the portal onto Antimobius. So somebody who's brand new to the book may look at it and say, why is there another Sally but with bad hair and a uniform on? And that's why I tried to explain who was who, because somebody who might have a basic understanding of the book, they might recognize the Sat AM cast just by a glance, may not understand who the evil characters are. Why did Bunny suddenly go bad? It's not Bunny, it's Buns, haha. So it's characters that have a major impact in the story and those that need to be explained to the new readers. Maverick Indigo asks, question about the creation process. What kinds of scripts do you find hardest to do, and how do you go about writing out these stories? By types, I mean single-issue stories, 5-page backups, and multi-parters. In terms of the creation process, go to the big info thread on BumbleKing that's sticky at the top. That tells you exactly how the entire process goes from springboards to breakdowns to rough drafts, etc. In terms of what's more difficult, I find myself having to revise the 5-page stories usually more than the full issues, simply because in 5 pages I'm trying to tell so much story, and it's really hard to pace all that information and try to get the emotional gravitas across when you only have 5 pages. When it's one of the Sonic tie-in stories where it's basically a glorified ad, that's pretty easily. That's, go by the numbers, boom, 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 there's the game, go play it. When it's an actual in-continuity story, it's a lot harder to make it meaty, make it worth telling the story. Samurai Sally asks, how do you describe Kin's personality nowadays? He's made a big leap from the temper tantrum throwing monkey, so I'm curious how you, the writer, sees him. He's definitely made huge leaps and bounds from his original state. He's still a little bit of an egotist, he still has a little bit of that swagger, but part of that comes from the fact that he throws lightning and can summon a cloud and has the atom bat and yada yada yada. He's much more humble now. He has been brought down to his absolute basest and has worked his way back to a point where he feels confident in who he is and what he does. So at this point he's almost Sonic-like, except with a sharper temper and a greater sense of humility. From here it'll be interesting to see what becomes of him now that he's the king of the free people and he's organizing the Dragon Kingdom. What will that make him into after that? Will he become kind of regal, or will the power ultimately corrupt him? It's something that I hope to investigate someday. Blink asks, seeing as it probably won't be covered again, what can you tell us about Espio and Lisa's relationship then, now, and in the future? Back then, I think it was just general friendship. Espio seemed kind of standoffish in general, so I can't really see him getting too close to just about anybody. And that with the mission on his mind, he probably didn't want to make too many connections. In terms of the now, I don't want to go into too many specifics. I think the cameo she has within the Chamber of the Bride of Constant Vigil speaks volumes. As for the future, I'm not going to tell you that. You're going to have to find out later. Alright, this recording is going a bit long, so I'll finish up the rest of page 2 and start into page 3 with the next update.